Today, we are going to be talking about absolute value. The absolute value of a number is the number's distance from 0 on a number line. For example, the absolute value of -3 is 3 because -3 is 3 units from 0. The absolute value of -3 is written like this. You'll see the -3 fits inside 2 lines going vertically. If I plot -3 on my number line, you can see that if I start at 0, I have 1, 2, 3 units away from 0. So absolute value is just simply the number's distance from 0. And we know that we can show absolute value using 2 vertical lines. So let's look at this question. Which pairs of numbers have the same absolute value? How are these numbers related? Well, when we look at letter A is asking us for what the absolute value of -7 is. And if we remember, absolute value means the distance from 0. We can use a number line to help us, and we can see that -7, when plotted on the number line, is 7 units from 0 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the absolute value of -7 is just 7. In letter B, they're asking for the absolute value of 5, positive 5. Why do I know it's positive 5? Because there's no sign in front of the 5. And we can assume that if there's no negative sign, it means it's positive. Positive 5 on the number line is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the right of 0. So the absolute value of 5 is 5. And we can continue going through each letter to find the absolute value, and then we can see which ones have the same absolute value. Letter C asks for the absolute value of 7. And I know that positive 7 is 7 units from 0. The absolute value of -2, which is letter D, I know that -2 is 2 spaces from 0. So the absolute value of -2 is 2. The absolute value of 4 in letter E, positive 4, that's 4 spaces from 0. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. And in letter F, they're asking for the absolute value of -4. And I know that -4 is 4 units to the left of 0. So let's see which ones have the same absolute value. Well, I notice that I'm going to erase I see that the absolute value in letter E is 4, and the absolute value in letter F is 4. So the absolute value of 4 and the absolute value of -4 have the same answer. They're both 4 units from 0. I also notice that the absolute value in letter A and letter C are the same. -7 is 7 units from 0, and positive 7 is 7 units from 0. So the absolute value of -7 and positive 7 are the same. I don't think I see any more pairs because in letter B, we have an absolute value of 5, and in letter D, it's an absolute value of 2, and those aren't the same. So the absolute value of 5 and the absolute value of -2 do not have the same absolute value. How about you give it a try? Why don't you press pause on this video and find the absolute value of the following numbers. What is the absolute value of 9? What is the absolute value of 43? What is the absolute value of negative 4? And what is the absolute value of 74? Remember, absolute value is defined as how far away is this number from 0. Okay, press pause, try it on your own, and then when you press play, the answers will appear. Nice job trying these questions on your own. Now self-check and see if you got them all correct. And if not, ask yourself, what don't I understand? I've noticed something when I've been answering these absolute value questions. I noticed that the answers are all positive. Can the absolute value ever be negative? Well, let's think of the definition of absolute value. Absolute value is merely the amount of units away from 0 a number is. So negative numbers are a certain space from 0, and positive numbers are a certain amount of units from 0. But could my answer ever be negative? Well, now that I've thought about this question, I know that the absolute value of any number is always positive, because it always has to be a positive amount of units away from 0. Now my answer can be negative, but not when they're asking me what just the absolute value of the number is. The next question will help you understand this. So here's your challenge. What would the answer be if we wanted to find the opposite of the absolute value of a number? Why don't you press pause on this video, take a minute to think about this, and then check your answer. Okay, let's look at this question. There's a negative sign on the outside of the absolute value signs. I remember from the last lesson that this means they're asking me for the opposite of the absolute value of negative 9. So the first thing we should do is find out what the absolute value of negative 9 is. Well, I can look at my number line, and I know that negative 9 is 9 units from 0. And now they want me to find the opposite of that. And the opposite of positive 9 is negative 9. So the opposite of the absolute value of negative 9 is negative 9. And this is the only time my answer would probably be negative. Here are some real-life questions on when we use absolute value. Maria was sick with the flu, and her weight change as a result of it is represented by negative 4 pounds. When you see negative 4, you know she lost 4 pounds. But how much weight did Maria lose? Would you tell someone she lost negative 4 pounds? Or would you just say she lost 4 pounds? Well, the answer is she would just lose 4 pounds. So when you see this situation, it's also like saying, what is the absolute value of negative 4? It's represented as negative 4 in losing 4 pounds, but we tell people that Maria just lost 4 pounds. Have a think about this question. Julia used absolute value to find the distance between 0 and 6 on a number line. She then wrote a similar statement to represent the distance between 0 and negative 6. Here is her work. Is she correct? Explain why you think she is, or explain what mistake she made. Let's look at this closely. The absolute value of positive 6 is indeed positive 6, because the number 6 is 6 units from 0. However, negative 6 is how far away from 0? Well, I know that if I drew a number line, I could see that negative 6 is 6 units from 0. So why did Julia put that the absolute value of negative 6 is negative 6? It's not negative 6 units from 0, it's just 6 spaces away. So her mistake was that she left the negative sign. So she was not correct. I hope this video helped you to understand a little bit about absolute value.